Hello friends, welcome to Savannah Knits. This is my knitting podcast where I talk all about the things that I'm knitting that are bringing me joy. My name is Savannah and I live in Utah in the United States, where I'm a stay-at-home mom and I love to knit and read. And I like to ask you guys a question of the day so I can get to know you better. So the question of the day is, what's something you've done recently that you're proud of? I'd love to hear all of the positive and empowering things in the comments. So comment down below. Let me know what's something you've done recently that you're proud of. Before we get into the podcast, I want to let you know where you can find me. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry, both as Savannah Knits. And you can also send me an email at savannahknits@gmail.com if you would like. And as always, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe if you would like. And again, I would love to hear about the question of the day, or even what you're working on, or any questions that you might have. Let me know. I would love to respond to your comment. So it's been a while since I recorded a podcast. I did do a video last week about my experience at the Great Basin Fiber Arts Fair, and I did a little bit of a vlog and also showed off the yarn that I got. So that kind of took place of my regular podcasting schedule. So it's been a while and I'm so excited to sit down with you guys and chat all about what I've been working on for the past couple weeks. I will say that I've had quite a lot of knitting time. My two boys both got their tonsils out last week, so we have been watching lots of movies. I have been doing lots of knitting as between, taking care of them and getting other stuff done, but mostly just chilling inside and knitting. And honestly, it's been a really nice change of pace. Of course, I'm looking forward to when my boys will feel a lot better so we can do more things outside and so that they can just be happier. But I'm also taking advantage of this slower pace. So there is a lot of knitting that I want to show you guys today. Let's start with my only finished object, which is what I'm wearing. This is the Luna Tee by Carissa. I made a size somewhere between a size 7 and a size 8, but I will explain more about that later. I used a 3.75 millimeter needle, and I used Knit Picks Animation, which is a 100% mercerized cotton yarn, and it is in the color Clarity. I think the last time that I showed this on the podcast was I was still working on the raglan, and I was getting to the point where I realized that my row gauge was quite off, and it was looking like I would need to split for sleeves a lot earlier than my size recommended. So I started knitting a size 8. But with my row gauge being so off, I tried this on and I realized I really did need to split for sleeves earlier than what the size 8 says. So I think I split for sleeves around the size 7, but my stitch count wasn't the same as size 7 because I had cast it on and done the increases for a size 8. Kind of confusing. So I did have to adjust the numbers a little bit and do a lot of math and figure out what would be the best fit for me, and I'm really proud of myself that I did that. I'm a person that I'm not comfortable with doing modifications on knitting patterns. I'll do them if I have to, but I'm definitely not looking for that when I'm going into a pattern. I really just want to follow the pattern, have a relaxing knitting experience. It's all of the fit and all of the details are taken care of for me. For that reason, I don't think I would ever be a knitwear designer because I hate frogging and I really just don't want to use my brain when I'm knitting, as for right now in my life. So I did do some math to figure out the splitting for sleeves, figuring out which stitches should go where, how many stitches I should cast on under the underarm, and I think I ended up doing the same number for the cast on stitches under the underarm, because I realized that that would give me the bust circumference that I would want. So that worked out well. The only thing that was a little bit more confusing was the Japanese short rows. First of all, I'd never done Japanese short rows before, so that was a new experience learning about them. And in my head, I thought they were going to be very complicated, but they're really not that much more complicated than German short rows, which I'm used to. It just involves a moving marker and different ways of doing it. So that wasn't as hard as I thought. What was difficult was that I had new stitch counts that weren't in the pattern because I was between a size 7 and a size 8. So I had to recalculate the Japanese short rows. And so for the size that I wanted, I figured out how many stitches in the front here would be unworked. And I figured out the percentage of that. So what percentage of the stitches on the front section of size 8 were unworked? I got a number that was that percentage, and then I applied that percentage number to my new stitch count for the front section. So I'd have about the same percentage. So say, I can't even remember my math at all, so this is probably totally off, but just for example's sake, say that 80% of the front section stitches were not worked with short rows. Then I would get my new front stitch number, times that by 0.8, and then get a new number that I could work with. So I did have to do it that way. But after I figured out that number, I realized that I could just follow the Japanese short rows for size 7 and it would work out with my new stitch count. I don't think I could explain how I did it. I just did it and then had my husband check it because he was a math teacher, and then it worked out. So, and I also don't want to give super specific details because it is a paid pattern. All of this to say, if you're confused, it's okay, I'm confused too, and I'm the one that did it. So all in all, it worked out in the end. I'm very proud of myself for having enough knowledge and enough experience to rework short rows and figure out how they would work. It's also my first time doing short rows after you split for sleeves, so that was interesting as well. All in all, this is something that I'm proud of because of all of the modifications I had to make. So going back to the question of the day, that's why I wanted to ask you guys what you've done recently that you're proud of, because this is mine and I would love to know yours. And isn't it so wonderful that when you have to modify a pattern, you just are hoping so much that it will work, and this worked perfectly. I'm in love with the fit. I feel like it is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want a lot of negative ease like the pattern suggests. I did want a little bit of positive ease, but not a lot. I just wanted it to fit me well. And I feel like because I went in between those two sizes and kind of did my own modifications for that, I am really happy with the fit of it. So in this pattern, there are options to have a tapered body, which means you're doing decreases to go down to the waist, so it can really hug you if you want that fit, or you can just do a straight body with no decreases. And that's what I did. I just did the straight, and I did end up adding 2 inches to the body, and I feel like it's at a length that I like. I really honestly think it's a perfect length. I was a little bit stressed about the length, but I think I hit it with what I wanted. With the sleeves, I picked up the sleeves again, put them back on the needle, picked up the stitches from the underarm, and realized that that number corresponded with a size 7. So I knit a size 7 sleeve, which was quite nice to have numbers that are just in the pattern. And I did do the tapered version. So again, with the sleeves, you can have a straight version or a tapered version. I did a tapered version, and I still feel like they're not super tight on me. I think also with blocking, it did grow a little bit, but I'm okay with how the sleeves fit. Again, I had to add a lot of length to these sleeves. I think that I doubled the amount of rows. She says when to do the decreases and how many times to do the decreases, and I did twice as many times for the decreases. So double amount of rows, and I am really happy with where it fits. I did want kind of a longer sleeve. I like longer sleeves on me just because I am a t-shirt girl in the summer and I like the longer sleeves that t-shirts have. So I'm also happy, really happy with the sleeve length for this. The fit before blocking was a little bit wonky, but I knew from my swatch that the yarn would grow a little bit and also fill in the gaps. It didn't fill in the gaps as much as I thought it would. I still feel like it is a little bit holey, but that's okay. I am okay with it. It feels very light and flowy and breathable, and I think that's the most important thing when it comes to summer tees. So with blocking, I think it really became drapey and smooth, and I'm really happy with how it looks. And I was a little bit worried with the broken rib and cotton showing some mistakes or some uneven tension, and there are a few spots that look like bigger holes just because my tension was a little bit off, or maybe from the Japanese short rows, but I don't feel like it's that noticeable, and it just gives more breathability, right? So I'm really happy with also the fit that I achieved after blocking. I'm really happy that it grew a little bit. It is perfection. So all in all, this is one of my favorite tees that I have made. I have been wearing it so much. It is so comfortable. It makes me feel very confident. It's very cool. I like the color, so I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think the only thing I'm going to do is add elastic right here. This neckline is stretching out a little bit and just is gaping, and I think that was my fault during blocking. I think I stretched it out a little bit too much, so I'm gonna go in and add some elastic, not to totally like tighten, but just to make it so it's not as floppy. I'll probably do that today after this. So this tee also flew off my needles. I started it on April 11th and finished it on April 29th, so it took me 2 weeks and 3 days, and I am very proud of it. Let's move into some whips now. I casted on the Contrariwise Shawl by Claire Jackson. If you watched my Fiber Festival vlog, then you would have seen my plans for this and the yarn. And yes, I could not resist casting on. Very excited about it. I have been working on it almost non-stop since I cast it on. So this is a waffle stitch shawl. It's a very large shawl, has a kite shape, I think. This is also my first shawl that I have ever knit, and it's not as I was gonna say it's not as difficult as I thought it would be, but it is also more difficult than I thought it would be. When I think of shawl knitting, I think that it's just basically a huge blanket, and I also think that it's a lot harder than a blanket because there's some increasing and decreasing that you have to keep track of, and obviously the waffle stitch pattern in the center. So it is a learning process, but I am now at a point where I can just cruise on it. So for this shawl, I'm knitting it with 4.5 millimeter needles, and I am using this mini set that I got from Yarnaceous Fibers. This is her Bronto DK base, and the whole set is called Rose City. And I got this at the Fiber Festival. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it. It's actually a doodle kit. It's meant for a doodle kit, but I knew that I wanted to use it for this shawl. First of all, I am in love with the colors. They are my colors. Second of all, this yarn is so soft. The waffle stitch makes it so squishy. It is pure dopamine every time I pick this up. I did have to start this shawl a couple of times over. The beginning was definitely a little bit fiddly, and I wanted to make sure that it looked good. And then I also was playing around with gauge. I think it does call for a 4.5 millimeter needle, which I'm using, but I sized up at first because I had a little bit less I had 400 grams for the shawl, and the shawl calls for 410 grams for the DK version. So I wanted my gauge to be a little bit bigger, so I would use less yarn. And a 5mm needle was just, the fabric was too gapey, so I went down to a 4.5. And even now I feel like I could have sized down because my gauge is a lot bigger than what the pattern says, and I am using a lot less yarn. So I have this much yarn from the first color, which I would say, oh, I dropped it, which I would say is quite a lot. I kind of wanted to use all of it, but it's too late now. It's fine. I'm happy with the fabric that I have with the 4.5mm needle. I think I'll just need to figure out what to use these tiny little skeins for. Some sort of scrappy project or color work or something. Let me show you what I have so far before I keep chatting away. This is what I have. Oh my goodness. It looks so beautiful. So the main difference with this is that I am not fading the colors like she has in Claire Jackson's shawl. She designed the shawl for a 24 color advent. I only have 8 colors and I am just striping them, and I think it looks really good so far. I am on my 4th color, so I have 4 more after this. I got the idea of just striping the colors from another project in Ravelry where she just stripes them, and she also used 8 colors, so I used that as inspiration for mine, and I just didn't want to deal with fading. And I feel like these colors aren't close enough to do a full fade. Like if I was alternating rows, you would just be able to tell that I'm alternating rows. But I really like the clean line going from color to color. I think that it looks really good, especially with the V of the decreases in the middle right there. So I am really happy with how this is turning out. And the waffle stitch is just really squishy. I love it. It's also a great practice because I want to make Claire Jackson's Market Henley, which is another waffle stitch pattern that she has. That's a sweater, and I have the yarn for it and everything. So this is a good project to just practice that, because the waffle stitch is a 4-row repeat, which I now have memorized thanks to working so much on this. So it's nice for that. I also feel like this shawl is very engaging in the fact that the whole thing with the increases and the decreases in the waffle stitch is a 12-row repeat. And at the beginning, I really had to pay attention to each row, and it's not charted or anything. It's all written out, which I kind of wish it was charted because I do a lot better with charts than written out. But now that I'm, I would say, almost halfway through with this, I feel like I somewhat have it memorized, and there are obviously longer chunks of just waffle stitch that I'm working in the middle before I get to an increase or a decrease, whereas here it was not very much at all before I got to an increase or a decrease. But I do still have to have the pattern out and reference it at least every other row to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So it isn't a super mindless project, but I like engaging projects, so I don't mind, and I think it's turning out beautifully. I love this so much. I don't really know when I would wear this. It is a quite big shawl, so I don't know if I would be wearing it like a scarf, but I know that I will wear it a lot when reading at night. So it's kind of my rainbow reading shawl, and I really love it. I'm excited also to end with these pinks and reds because I've been working on these for a bit. And the next color schemes, these yarns are really tangled, but the next color schemes are these. So I'm really excited to switch color palettes a little bit and get to some blues and greens. So yes, this is my Contrariwise shawl. I casted it on April 29th, so this is 1 week of work. And I think I have a lot more knitting time ahead of me with my boys' recovery, so hopefully I can just keep cruising on this. My next work in progress are just my socks, so quick update on those. I am making just some plain basic socks, and I have finished one. These are in a yarn from Ruby and Roses, which is my favorite hand dyer because I love speckles. She is the queen of speckles. So this is her soft rose base in the color Love Story, which is this yellow with some lots of different colors of sparkles. There was some pooling on the leg, so you can see that there are some, like a strip of this gray section right here, and then there's a lot more of the pink speckling there and right there, but I don't think it's too noticeable and I don't mind it. With basic socks, they're all the way down on my feet, so I'm not going to notice pooling as much. For these, I did a 64 stitch cast on, 2.25mm needles on magic loop. I did 14 rows of 2x1 ribbing, and then a 5-inch leg, and just a heel flap and gusset, and a foot wedge toe. And I have casted on the second one, but I'm only a little bit through the ribbing on this one, so not much to show on that. I started these on April 16th, so I've been working on them for 2 weeks and 5 days. I have one last work in progress to show you. This is a special work in progress, I would say. The lovely Regine from Unravelled offered to send me one of their kits to try out. And so they sent me their essential blanket kit, and I have filmed an unboxing, so let's watch that now. So this is the bag that it comes in from Unravelled. It's a really nice heavy-duty tote bag with a very nice zipper pouch on the inside to hold all of your notions. The straps for this bag are also very heavy-duty, which is nice. And then they send you their yarn, which is their Unravelled Uno yarn, which is a mix of alpaca, merino, and polyamide from Peru. It is a very soft, squishy yarn. It's also a chain yarn, which is cool. I haven't worked with a chain yarn before. They have included 4 balls of each color. I was sent the colorway Vitality, or the project called Vitality. So there's a dark gray, a light gray, and then a mustard yellow color. The mustard yellow color has a lot of depth. It has some gray in there as well as the yellow. And then here's the lighter gray so that you can see that. It's got some silver and white mixed in with the gray as well. Also included with the kit is a packet with everything else that you need for the blanket pattern. It comes with some needles. These are Chiaogu bamboo needles, 5.5mm needles. Here is a card with their logo and a little thank you note, which is nice. They also give you a couple stitch markers, a sewing needle, and a little tag that you can sew on your blanket after it's finished. Here is more information about the alpaca in their yarn. And then finally, we have the printed out pattern in color, which is very nice to have it all printed out and ready to go. There are also links that you can click on to have video tutorials, and that's everything in the kit. All right, I have cast it on since filming that unboxing, so I want to show you what I have and also just talk about my experience with the yarn and the needles. And with it being a blanket, I will forever always be in the middle of a row whenever I show this. It's just going to be the nature of the project, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit. This is what I have so far. This is my TV knitting for sure. When I am watching something, I don't have to pay attention to it. I'm not doing waffle stitch or anything. It's just a simple garter stitch. There's also an I-cord edging, which I can show you right here. Looks very neat and clean. This yarn is very, very soft, and the garter stitch makes it also squishy. Squishy is just the theme of today's knits, apparently. And yeah, I just really, really love it. And this is my first time working with a chain yarn, so that's been cool. I love the dimension of the color. I think that that is unique, and just the fuzziness of it. There's a lot of fuzz coming off of the blanket. I don't know if you'll be able to see maybe up here, but yeah, I think this will make a very warm and squishy blanket. This is also my first time working with wooden needles in a long time, and they're not my favorite method of knitting, but for this project it works well because then I can use my metal needles for other projects like teas. And for this project, where I'm not in any rush to get it done quickly because we're going into summer, don't really need an alpaca blanket, the wooden needles are perfectly fine for this purpose. And I really did want to try the Qiaogu wooden needles because their metal needles are all that I knit with usually. So it's fun to try these wooden ones. They do have where they connect with the cord, right? I'm trying to show you right here, maybe. I don't know if you can see right there. You can fully twist the needle. So that's really nice for a blanket, and then you're not having to have it all be tangled and the cord is looping around in weird ways. So that's really nice that it has that feature. All in all, this is just a very relaxing project. And with the instructions, I can't say much to the instructions because I'm not a beginner. They do advertise this kit as a beginner kit, and I do feel like that it could benefit from a little bit more explanation if a true beginner is working on this kit. However, they do have video tutorials, so I think reading the pattern supplemented with the videos, an absolute beginner should be fine. But again, I can't speak to that because I'm not a beginner. But it is nice that everything is in the kit. I think the quality of the bag that it came with is very nice, and I am excited to have a knitted blanket, which I think that I want to have this finished by the time fall comes, and I think that we will get a lot of use out of. I started this blanket on April 29th, so I have been working on it for 1 week and enjoying it. Let's quickly go over some acquisitions. I already shared my acquisitions from the Great Basin Fiber Arts Fair that I went to last week, so if you want to see the yarns that I got from that, feel free to watch my video from last week. But I did get another little yarn goodie this week. This is Ruby and Roses, of course, because I love her yarn, in her soft rose base in the color Drama Queen. And I've been feeling pink, I've been feeling speckles, so this called to me. And of course I'm going to be making socks with it. I also want to do a reading and watching update quickly. It's been quite a few weeks since I last did my reading and watching update in my last podcast, so I'm not going to talk about all of the books that I read because we would be here for a while talking about some meh books. So I just want to talk about two that I really enjoyed. The first one, two of my favorites. The first one is Blood Over Bright Haven. I am a huge M.L. Wong fan after reading this book. Her other book, Sword of Kaigan, love that book so much. It's one of the best books I've ever read about, it's like a military Asian fantasy, but it has beautiful family relationships and forgiveness themes. Lovely. This one is also a fantasy, which with one of the coolest magic systems I've ever seen, using typewriters. And there's also a lot of themes of, feminism and reaching for dreams, but realizing that it's different when you get there. It is just one of the best books I've ever read. I can't recommend it enough. And I probably am not explaining it very well, but I'm just saying, if you really like fantasy, you really like to think, you really like themes that break your heart and will also give you a lot of hope about today's world, it's just, this book is for you. The other book that I read and enjoyed was The Knight the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This is her newest book that comes out later this month. She is the one that also wrote One Dark Window, if you know that series, which I love. Rachel Gillig is really good at writing atmospheres that feel real and tangible and spooky. This one is no different. There's lots of dreams, lots of secrets, lots of figuring out her life and figuring out, you know, the lies that she's been told and how she feels about that. It's also a fantastic romance. There's also some humor in there with a gargoyle and also a quest style of plot. So highly recommend that one as well. Sorry, just 2 fantasy books for you guys. If you don't read fantasy, sorry about that. I also have been watching Andor with the new season coming out and enjoying that. And that's basically all the reading and watching that I've been doing besides my regular knitting podcasts and things. So if you've made it this far, thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate all of you guys, and don't forget to comment below on my question of the day, and I just hope you guys are knitting what is bringing you joy. I will see you guys next time. Bye.